Merry Christmas, everyone, and welcome to our Boxing Day edition of NBL Now. 2 games to take a look at from last night. 1 game coming up today, a season-ending injury, and that's just a little sample of what's on the menu this morning. I'm Jack Heverin. Merry Christmas, everyone. Great to have your company. Derek Rucker, good morning to you.
Good morning, Jack, and happy Boxing Day. I hope you had a great Christmas. It looked like you had a lot of fun, and then you got to call a fairly intriguing game.
Yeah, we'll get to that one shortly. I want to start with your game, though, because that was the big spectacle last night. Sydney and the Illawarra, national free-to-air audience, high-scoring game. I think in many respects, and I found myself just sitting at home watching it, obviously, after we finished our game, it was a really great exhibition of what's going on in our league right now. There was a lot of good things to take out of last night.
And the temperamental nature of the game right now. You know, Sydney come out really strong after not being able to get out to good leads throughout the season. And we know the level of their opponent that they faced with Illawarra. So for Sydney to come out and kind of take control of that game, essentially, Jack, for the first 15 minutes or so, and being in a really good position in the game in which I felt was vital for them to develop some momentum for the balance of the season.
Trey Kell, I think it's worth just going to him straight away now, because I think a lot of us have been flirting with the idea of Trey Kell being an MVP candidate. But you see a game last night, Derek. Does he now sort of jump into your top 3 calculations as an MVP candidate?
Well, last Sunday, he really struck me as being a guy who has a significant impact on the game. Harvey's a great player, but Harvey's more like that strike weapon that the Hawks have, whereas Trey Kell is just consistently productive throughout the course of the game. And if he's not scoring, he's rebounding, he's running the show from the point guard position until he gets himself going. He has great timing and a sense of awareness when to really go forward with his scoring. And yesterday, when he turned it on, the Hawks totally dominated that game.
So, I mean, if the season stopped now, do you think he would be in the top 3 for the MVP?
I think so. Obviously, Bryce Cotton is going to be there. PJC is continuing to assemble numbers, but the team isn't winning. So I would say that he's probably fallen out of the top 3. You know, I've got Xavier Cook still in there because of just what he does throughout the course of the season. But, you know, Bryce and Trey Kell are kind of the 2 front runners for mine.
So that's the Illawarra side of things. I mean, I don't want to understate what they're doing at all. They're top of the table. That was a really tough win, and they found a way, particularly after being jumped early by Sydney. They found a way. Just one on Justin Tatum and his ability, Ruck, to problem solve. And that was really obvious watching the game last night, particularly the way that they started the second quarter. They had a look at where things went wrong in the first quarter and made adjustments. How are you seeing his coaching this season?
You know, last year it seemed like his coaching was based around motivation because he came in during the course of the season. So he didn't really have time to implement his strategy. So it was more like, come on, guys, and trying to reach into each individual player. Well, now he's had time, Jack, and you can see his strategy. And now it's become more about the X's and O's. He doesn't seem as boisterous on the sidelines. He seems to have found a nice rhythm with his coaching and the way he handles the sidelines. But also, it's interesting, and we've seen him at Kudos Bank Arena and the kind of aura and his presence. And I've got to see another side over the past week or so where his family is out, his daughter's out, and the reverence with which his family hold him is really interesting to see. And it points to the type of character that Justin must be, because all those people in his close circle, they have their eyes on him. They really respect him. And I'm sure it's no different with his players, and part of the reason why they're so successful.
And like, it's only a small thing, but it was an observation of mine that he's comfortable enough now within himself, but also as a coach to, you know, he wore the Christmas Day kit in the pregame, and
so much fun.
He got it. I mean, he's not taking himself too seriously. I think there'd be a few coaches who would say, oh, there's no way I can do that. He's so comfortable with himself.
Well, even behind the scenes in that, the plan was for him to just sit down with us as we normally do it. But when Rachel, our producer, saw the outfit he was wearing, she wanted him to do something different. and he just did it.
Yeah.
He just did it. It's game day, a big game. His team's playing well, and he had fun with us and did it. And it just, it makes the guy more likable. It just adds to his charisma.
Sydney Kings, on the other hand, very much a winnable game. Probably one that they'll kick themselves that they're not going to have that one in the bank from Christmas Day, particularly at home. And Ruck, I can't help but wonder what could have been for Alex Toohey. Finished up with 25-4. Gee, I wonder whether we missed an opportunity for Alex Toohey to have a 30-piece and beyond last night.
Well, Jack, I'm sure you do the same when you review your performance as one of our greatest play-by-play men ever in the NBL. You go back and look at what you've done and assess and review. Well, I did the same last night because I went so hard on the Sydney Kings and the coaching staff for removing Toohey from the game in the middle of the second quarter. And I wasn't sure if my analysis was too critical and too harsh. Did it balance out what was really happening on the court? Well, I think it did, Jack. I think I was correct, and I think that turned the game. That was a moment where the Sydney Kings had to take full advantage, and Brad was saying the lead was not as great as it should have been. They made that substitution, and I believe the score went from 48-39 to 58-58. And I just thought Toohey was going to be in a situation where he might go for 35 plus. It disrupted his rhythm, and it put the Kings in a situation where they were reeling and never really found their way until with 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter.
And then the post-match press conference with Brian Goorjian was really interesting. So he spoke a bit about the officiating. I mean, he did have a review up his sleeve had he have chosen to use that. But I think the big takeaway watching it this morning, Derek, is that there's perhaps they're not quite aligned coach and front office in terms of what the Sydney Kings need. They have an import spot available. They also have a season-ending injury to Jalen Galloway. Very clear that Brian Goorjian wants another guard. Basically said that Jalen Adams is the only one that can handle the ball. But it seems as though that front office may have other ideas.
Well, they're trying to find that complementary ball handler. And right now, Bruce and Leofa knocked down some shots last night. Bruce was decent, but both of those guys, when you look at their analytics, they're not faring well with the net rating. They're really poor in that regard, even though they show signs of being really productive. And I'm sure the Kings coaching staff is looking at that as one of the primary reasons why they need a ball handler and wanting to play Jalen Adams off the ball more. However, I think a bigger problem is the rebounding and what they do against size. And for that reason, if management actually believe they need a big, I would tend to side with management. I'm looking for a 3-4, a 4-5, something like that. And I know the market right now, Jack, it's hard to find bigs. So it could be that the 3-4 is the more likely type of player, the physical profile that they're probably going to have to go for. But they don't have enough right now to win the championship. Let me be clear about that.
Yeah, that's a great call. I think they've got enough to be in the hunt and to make the playoffs and to potentially make it to a semi-series. But you can't see them. Sam Froling in a 5-game series would feast on that Sydney Kings lineup. Even Rob Lowe and Marcus Lee, not quite the same caliber of player, but together they're a good combination. The bigs it seems like it's a glaring problem. And Brian Goorjian said that in the press conference, Ruck, and said, look, Cam Oliver's not giving us everything we need right now.
Jack, you know who they need?
Say it.
Andrew Bogut.
No, that's not what I thought you were going to say.
That's the type of player they need. Someone that is going to be low maintenance on the offensive end. Now, obviously, it's going to be really hard to find a guy like that. But if you could get a scaled down version, a guy that can rebound, who's going to be good behind the line of the ball defensively, that's going to clear the glass, and that can play smart, intelligent defense against opposing bigs, that's exactly what the Kings need, I believe.
I'm almost certain that Andrew Bogut's not available, but we can ask. We can ask next time we talk to him. The early game last night was a win for Tasmania. A 30-point final quarter got them over the line. They were pushed. I mean, credit to the Breakers here. This is a season that's going from bad to worse for them, unfortunately. But they challenged Tasmania all the way to the end. Just lacked a bit of execution down the stretch.
I've been critical over the past couple of weeks with New Zealand's will to win. But I thought yesterday, Jack, they came with the effort, and I thought there was some spice in the game. But I think when you learn how to lose, which it looks like they now have are afflicted with, it becomes difficult to reverse that trend. And they're on a run similar to what Cairns is. And how those teams turn it around is going to be very interesting to watch. Cairns get a chance this evening to reverse that trend, but losing becomes somewhat of an addiction. It becomes hard to break free from, and those teams are being superbly challenged with this affliction at the moment.
Yeah, and the frustration boiled over in the last quarter. Parker Jackson-Cartwright was involved in a little bit of a tangle with Majuk Deng. Ruben Tarangi comes in as third man and pushes Parker away. He gets up, he's incensed, and the referees put themselves between the players to try and break up the situation. Parker's trying to push away to get to Ruben Tarangi. Do you think there's anything there for him to worry about?
Well, he put his hands on the refs. And if you don't think it was this specifically his hands, well, he actually physically kind of bowled over a referee trying to get to another player. So I think there's going to be a price to pay for Parker.
I just wonder, there's a lot of similarities between that and Montrezl Harrell for a few weeks ago, and Montrezl Harrell got suspended for other things, but not that.
Yeah, so, if I was the Breakers, I'd probably be looking at, perhaps losing Parker for one. He does have a clean record. I don't think he's ever been in front of the tribunal or anything, so I think it might be fairly light.
JackJumpers now have gone on quite a big winning streak. The form ladder has them basically as one of the best teams in the competition. Jordan Crawford playing great basketball. Majuk Deng, I think, might be the hidden piece of the puzzle here, Derek, particularly with Will Magnay out of the lineup. Had 20 and 7. Every time he stepped on the floor, good things were happening. How important is he over the next month without Magnay?
He's vital, and we know the level that he can climb to in terms of his performances. We saw it last year in the championship series where he played a key role in helping the Jackies win that championship. But now this is a tougher assignment because there's no Will Magnay, and every game matters. And look, they've done a great job in this run. The victory over Melbourne United the other night was huge, and I think that one gave them a lot of confidence and a sense of belief in themselves that they can win against a tough opponent without Will Magnay. They have a good run of games at home, Jack, but some of these games are going to increase in difficulty starting on Sunday with Brisbane.
Brisbane, Southeast Melbourne, Illawarra, Perth, all in the near future for Tasmania. So a big test for them coming up. James Bateman's a story that Olgun Ulich dropped on ESPN yesterday, 8 a.m. Christmas morning. He drops the news to Brisbane Bullets fans that they didn't want to hear. And that's that James Bateman will be out for the remainder of the season with a high-grade hamstring injury. What do they do here, Derek? Do they try and ride this out, Brisbane, and get through with what they've got? Or do they go shopping immediately?
Jack, you can't afford to not try and make the playoffs or the play-in, given what we now see from this Bullets team. Say Casey Prather was average or slightly below average, and the Bullets were sitting at 6 and 10. Okay, let's ride it out. There's no need to dig into the bank and try and make a play to improve our situation. But, Jack, they're now firmly inside the top 6. Prather is a potential all-NBL first-team guy. It looks like Keandre Cook can be a long-term import here in the competition, and Tyrell Harrison's playing excellent basketball. They have a chance to make some noise for the rest of the season. I talked to the director of basketball or message with Stu Lash yesterday, and he said that they will most likely seek an injury replacement player and have one signed within the next couple of weeks. So that's exciting news for Bullets fans and a great move. And we've been very critical of Stu Lash and Justin Schuler and Malcolm Watts at times when they haven't performed well, when the personnel decisions have looked shaky. But let's give them credit now because they found a formula, and all of those imports have played really well. They've worked it out, and now all of a sudden, Isaac White has decided to come to the party. So it's exciting times in Brisbane, and I'm really curious to see how this plays out for them and who they bring in.
Before we finish up, one game tonight on Boxing Day. Cairns playing host to Melbourne United at the Cairns Convention Centre. I just wonder with this game, Derek, I look at this game and you've got a Melbourne United team who are a bit hit and miss at the moment, particularly at the defensive end of the floor. Cairns have given them troubles in the past, and it's at the convention centre. I'm not sure this game's as straightforward as what some people might think it's going to be.
Bad mojo vibes here for Melbourne United. Real bad, Jack. Like, Cairns is not a place where Melbourne United have performed well. And like you said, Cairns even beat them in Melbourne earlier this year. And Jack, it's only a matter of time before Cairns turn it around. If they can get Sam Wardenberg, I'm not sure what his status is for tonight's game, but if they can get him back in the lineup tonight, just to give them some minutes, I think Cairns are a real chance.
Very, very interesting, this game. Make sure you check it out. 7:30 p.m. local time, and of course, check your local guides to find out where it's on in your neck of the woods. That's us done for the day, Derek. You've had a very busy Christmas schedule, so I think you deserve to just put the feet up a little bit today and relax.
Thanks, Jack. I'm looking forward to a great Boxing Day. And Merry Christmas. We hope everyone had a fantastic time. Thank you for supporting NBL Now. Everybody does such a great job in producing this show and making sure we hit on all the topics. And happy holidays to you, partner.
And just want to say one other thing before we finish up as well, while we're saying thanks to everyone. A massive thanks to all of the players, the coaches, the staffs, the teams, broadcast crew, everyone that made it possible to have a doubleheader on Christmas Day. It's a massive sacrifice, and we appreciate all of your efforts as well. So thank you very much. NBL Now, back tomorrow.